Cape Town, 12th of June, 2025. Andre Naudet, businessman, undercover boss, shot dead in a crowded street. Blood spilled on the Voortrekker sidewalk. No arrests, no explanation. He was once a name that made the entire legal system wary. A businessman, a secret agent, a suspect in the biggest assassination of the decade. Why was a powerful tycoon shot dead in the middle of Voortrekker Street? Andre Naudet's death was no accident. And who was behind the fatal shot? Everyone follow us delve into this mysterious case and clarify all the twists and turns. Andre Naudet, 55, is the owner of a large private security company in the Western Cape, but in the eyes of police and criminals, he is a dangerous figure. He was involved in numerous organized murders, money laundering, and operating an illegal steroid network. Andre Naudet. Growing up in Cape Town, where violence and crime were an integral part of life, Naudet was shaped by an unforgiving environment. In a land where the law cannot protect, he learned to survive and rise through power. From a young age, he stood out for his ability to control people and handle situations in the dark, always keeping himself surprisingly calm in every important decision. Naudet was not an easy man to detect. He knew how to protect himself and build underground relationships with powerful people. Naudet began his underworld career as a bodyguard, eventually becoming a prominent security guard operator in Cape Town. However, his real rise to power began when he befriended Mark Liffman and Jerome Donkey Boyson, two notorious crime lords in the city. The three were involved in a massive conspiracy involving the death of Brian Weinstein, known as the Steroid King, in 2017. Weinstein was a powerful figure in the illicit drug and steroid trade, but his downfall was a pivotal turning point in Naudet's career. Weinstein's death created a power vacuum that Naudet and his accomplices were able to exploit to expand their criminal empire. Although Naudet was accused by the police of this assassination, he remained at large for many years without being punished. Charges of money laundering, intimidation, and attempted murder did not weaken him. Instead, they only helped him further solidify his position in the underworld, making him an elusive target. Naudet's criminal network thrived in the shadows, with deep connections in government agencies and police forces, making it difficult to bring him to light. Naudet's security company is not just a regular security business, but is actually a front for a terrifying network of power, an underground kingdom that hides crimes. With a reputation for managing security services for nightclubs, construction sites, and even major political events, Naudet was present at every important transaction and maintained relationships with influential individuals, from politicians to big names in business. These protection services were not only legal, but also became tools to seize power and expand his network of influence. In addition, Naudet built a transport chain for steroids and other illegal drugs, moving goods across borders undetected. This trafficking network is not only underground, but also protected by fake records, middlemen, and extremely close underground political connections. These records were created to conceal the truth, and Naudet was adept at using a system of false documents to legitimize any illegal transaction. Importantly, Naudet never made a public appearance. He always chose to operate through others, keeping himself far away from any criminal activity on the surface, at least in the legal records. As a result, over the years, Naudet has been able to maintain his empire without facing major interference from law enforcement, but also cross the boundaries of control into an underworld of intimidation, violence, and bribery. With a clandestine empire, Naudet built a vast network of power, where the weak had to obey and be controlled by him, or pay a heavy price. One of Naudet's common tricks in his operations was to force opponents to pay protection fees. If a partner or company does not agree to pay for his security services, the consequences will be a series of threats and assaults. These attacks were often swift and full of warning, and Naudet often had his men burn cars or vandalize the property of his opponents. One prominent case was when a competing company executive disappeared without a trace. These disappearances not only caused panic in the community, but also raised questions about the secret relationships and the heavy-handed measures that Naudet was willing to take to protect his empire. While on the outside, Naudet's security company still operates under a legal cover. Inside is a complex system of force, bid rigging, official bribery, and arms trafficking. Everything is tightly organized, from creating fake bids for major projects to paying bribes to construction and government officials to secure contracts and resources. It was also through these illegal transactions that Naudet not only enriched himself, but also consolidated his power in the criminal world, earning both fear and respect from everyone. Node used weapons to protect his transactions and enforce his decisions. His henchmen are equipped with powerful weapons and are ready to use them when ordered. Many times, brutal assaults occur in front of witnesses, but these incidents never come to light. Although the police were well aware of Node's underground activities, they were unable to prove his guilt. Evidence was always severely lacking, and witnesses were threatened or bribed not to testify. Because of the fear and hopelessness in obtaining evidence, cases involving Node often never reached court. Testimonies either disappeared, or if they were obtained, witnesses mysteriously disappeared before the case could be tried. Through skillful control, a network of protection and underground relationships within the political and police systems, Node was able to maintain his operations without encountering any obstacles for a long time. The brutal tactics he used only made him more powerful and unbeatable in the Cape Town crime scene. In 2024, the death of Mark Liffman was the first shock to Andre Node and his entire underworld. Liffman, a close friend and ally, was brutally assassinated in Cape Town, led many in the criminal world to believe that something was wrong. Node lost not only a colleague, but also a long-time trusted friend. Liffman was the man who helped him build and consolidate the empire, and now his death has raised concerns of an internal disintegration. Soon rumors began to swirl. Some said that someone in Node's network might have exposed his illegal activities. This immediately attracted the attention of the police, and they began to recover old records, review unsolved cases, looking for evidence that could be used against Node. Everything began to come to light, and Node understood that his world was slowly collapsing. This change came so quickly and unexpectedly that he was unprepared. Feeling unsafe, Node increased the number of bodyguards for himself and his family. But this change was not enough. While he fortified his external defenses, inside his organization, former henchmen began to be arrested and interrogated. Worst of all, some of Node's close associates, who used to be his right-hand men in underground operations, have now mysteriously disappeared without a trace. Some were arrested, others simply disappeared under circumstances that no one could explain. The people Node once trusted the most were now the ones who betrayed him. The situation became more serious when the right-hand men in the organization began to crack and turn their backs on Node. Meanwhile, the police also continued to investigate and tighten control over Node's transactions. He faced not only external threats but also betrayal from those closest to him within his own organization. Those he once trusted implicitly were now traitors, ready to report on Node's illegal activities when it suited their own interests. Over a long period of time, Node built his empire by controlling and manipulating those around him. But now, these very people became the greatest danger to him. Node's fatal mistake was to put too much trust in people he considered trustworthy. While their betrayal is slowly destroying the empire he worked so hard to build. Despite his efforts to strengthen his defenses, Node failed to realize that the real enemy did not come from outside, but from within. On the afternoon of June 12, 2025, Andre Node was sitting in his white pickup truck, parked on the side of Voortrekker Road, one of the busiest areas in Cape Town. Suddenly, 3 gunshots rang out, tearing apart the quiet afternoon. 2 bullets hit Node in the head, the other went through his chest. Within seconds, he collapsed, dead on the spot. As an influential figure in the criminal world and a former underworld kingpin, Node should have had constant protection. However, this time, he did not have time to draw his gun, a tragic end for a man who was all too familiar with death. The scene took place in the middle of a crowded street, but it seemed no one was able to stop it. Several people standing nearby filmed video of Node lying motionless on the sidewalk, blood spreading around. The videos were quickly shared widely on social media, raising questions about the lack of justice for a prominent criminal figure. Police confirmed that this was an organized murder, but from the moment the incident happened, all investigations were at a standstill. Less than a few hours after the incident, the legal documents in which Node was the defendant were immediately canceled on the grounds that the person involved was dead. This came as a shock to many, especially those who had followed the investigations into the cases in which Node was the mastermind. Before that, he had always been a figure of interest to the police but never faced proper punishment. And now, with death, all investigations had come to an end. No arrests have been announced, and no one has been held responsible for Node's death. This caused a stir in public opinion, raising the question of whether he had been silenced to hide the dark secrets he had carried for so many years. For those in the underworld, Noday's death may have been the end of an empire, but it was also the beginning of further purges. However, for the people and law enforcement agencies, this assassination further confirms the inability to bring those with power and influence to justice. None of those who worked with Noday, nor those associated with his empire, were held responsible for the illegal acts he committed. Noday is dead, but the stories of his murders, money laundering, steroid trafficking, and underground power grabs have never been fully solved. No one knows yet who was really behind Noday's death, but one thing is certain. It was not only the end of an empire, but also the beginning of a series of mysterious investigations and untold stories. The death of Andre Noday is not only a great loss for Cape Town's crime community, but also strongly influenced the economic and social activities around him. The security company Noday ran, a business built on a foundation of shadowy power and illegal dealings, was immediately shut down after his death. The false records, illegal transactions, and criminal relationships that Noday had built over the years were suddenly exposed, forcing all operations related to the company to cease immediately. Not only that, Noday's bank accounts and financial transactions related to him were frozen to serve the investigation. South African authorities began investigating Noday's finances, especially the proceeds from illegal activities such as money laundering, the trafficking of illegal steroids, and the proceeds from the protection services he provided to criminal gangs. However, this investigation process faces many difficulties when there is not much evidence and witnesses willing to testify, especially those involved in the underground world. As for Noday's family, after his funeral, his wife and 2 children decided to leave Cape Town, away from the area they once called home. The family's move outside the city was not only a measure to avoid attention, but also a way to protect themselves from the threat of revenge from gangs involved in Noday's death. They faced the pain of loss and the fear of an uncertain future. The communities once protected by Noday, those living in gang-infested areas, are now turning their backs on his image. Those who once trusted Noday and sought his protection no longer sought him out. Fear of retaliation from Noday's opponents kept many from mentioning his name and from severing ties with what had once been associated with him. For South African police, Noday's death is a sore point. Although he had been the subject of surveillance for 6 years, the murder happened in the middle of the street, in public, and no one was arrested. Questions began to arise. How could a person who had been monitored for so long die so publicly without anyone taking responsibility? This is a major failure for the South African police and justice system, and the case has raised concerns about the country's lapses in crime control and combating. Andre Noday was a key witness in the trials of mob bosses, particularly those involved in the death of Brian Weinstein, also known as the Steroid King. He is the keeper of many important secrets and could be a vital piece in exposing organized crime activities in Cape Town. Before his assassination, Noday had been the target of police surveillance, with charges related to money laundering, drug trafficking, and attempted murder. However, Noday's appearance in court never happened. As soon as he was publicly shot dead, all trials in which he could have participated were canceled. For the investigating authorities, the case was like a closed door. Noday had died in an organized assassination, and the man who held the answers to all his secrets was now buried under 3 layers of earth. The case remains open, but with Noday's death, unanswered questions about the relationship between gangs and organized crime remain unanswered. Although police and investigators have restarted investigations, no one can be sure that the case will ever come to fruition. Andre Noday once believed himself to be invulnerable, above all, with power in his hands. But the underworld he built was never one of loyalty. Where power and fear rule, things can change in the blink of an eye. The money, the connections, the power connections that Noday had worked so hard to build could not protect him from the cold bullet. It was a tragic end for one of Cape Town's most powerful tycoons, who once held the city in the palm of his hand, controlling everything in the shadows. And now, he was just a corpse lying on the ground without the power, without the relationships, without the respect he once had. The image makes one ponder. The once most powerful person is now just a corpse lying cold on the ground. If you find this story really inspiring, feel free to comment below the video and share your thoughts on how power and the underworld can change a person's life.